This is an operation called Sundown.
Yeah.
That never saw the light of day. Pun not intended. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That never saw light of day. This was an operation to grab Bhindranwale from the Golden Temple, where he had set up his base in 1984. Everybody remembers what actually happened in 1984 when Mrs. Gandhi, then Prime Minister, ordered the army to move in, and then we all know what happened. Tell us about this operation, Sandeep. What was it all about, and why did we never see it happening?
Yeah, well, interesting story, Dev, and this happened entirely by coincidence. I was just researching my book around that time, which is on 2611, Black Tornado. And I was doing this part about, the origins of the National Security Guard, why it was set up, what are the circumstances, who set it up, and, all of that. And while doing that, I interviewed a lot of the early founders of the NSG. And I discovered that the NSG actually came out of another organization called the SG. Very mysterious organization. And that's why in the story, there's small mention of it. It's called the League of Shadows. And if you look at that organization, it's a very mysterious organization. It's a Army Special Forces unit, but it's not under the Army. It's under the R&AW, the Cabinet Secretariat. And it was actually set up in the early 80s. And believe it or not, it was set up by a lot of the guys who had taken part in the Entebbe operation, 1982, right? And they actually trained there. Our early commandos, our special forces, we had the 1 and we had the 9 and all. But this was a completely different covert counter-terrorist force that they raised, primarily to fight in Punjab. And for reasons best known to the government of the day, they kept it under R&AW, CABSEC, and not under the regular military. And when this unit was set up, it was a one of a kind, and they were trained in room intervention and hostage rescue of the kind that you have many special forces doing now, including Delta and SEAL Team 6 and all that. And one of the officers at that time mentioned that, in 84, we were actually planning for another operation before Blue Star, but that operation never took off, and it got it was aborted, and we were then pushed into another operation, Blue Star, right, which was a all-out infantry assault on the Golden Temple. It was a regular military operation, as opposed to the special operation that they had planned earlier on. And I got a couple of details about that. And then it so happened in 2014, the UK declassified some of their documents under the 30-year rule. And many of those documents spoke of a UK SAS colonel, Special Air Services colonel, that's their special forces, who had come to India to advise on something to do with the Golden Temple, to take militants out, seek militants out of the Golden Temple. And that's when I realized, and when I read the circumstances, I realized that they were actually talking about this Operation Sundown, which never took place. And I called my sources, and they said, yes, of course, this is the same thing. And it also happened that B. Raman had mentioned this in his book. So that was like, absolute evidence for you, because B. Raman is literally the chronicler of the R&AW, insider talking about the R&AW, the only book of its kind that's been written. And then I started joining the dots, and I realized that there was this fascinating operation that this SAS colonel who had come there, he'd done a recce of the Golden Temple. Now, the number one worry for the government at that time was this radical 37-year-old Sikh preacher called Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, who was sitting there in one of the hostels outside the Golden Temple complex, and he was holding court. He was literally running a parallel government over there. And he was ordering the executions and the abductions and kidnappings of people. And I mean, it's a different matter that he was actually a Frankenstein that had been created by the government of the day. And he, like Frankenstein, went out of control. And they realized we had to do something. We have to get this guy out of there, because he was, he was a bad guy, and he was doing bad things, and he was getting people bumped off and kidnapped, and extortion was going on. It was a parallel system. And that's when the SAS colonel entered and said, look, this is the operation, this is how to do it. And the SAS, it was because of the Iranian embassy siege a couple of years before that, the Princess Gate hostage rescue, as it's called, where they stormed the Iranian embassy that had been held hostage. A whole lot of hostages had been held. So the SAS was really, on everyone's mind. Israel would be the natural thing after Entebbe, but we didn't have formal relations with the Israelis. But you have to give it to the government. the pragmatism with which they went about it. They got our entire special group trained by the Israelis, right? They sent them there. They were there for a couple of months. The best guys were trained there and brought back here. The SAS colonel then came and he advised on the contours of this operation. This is how to do it. You use helicopters. You go on the roof of the building, one of the hostels that Bhindranwale was staying in, and you extract him using armored personnel carriers. So it's like a 2-stage kind of operation. Helicopters from there, commandos rappel down, go there, grab him, put him into an armored vehicle, and then drive him out of there. Now, SG Special Group created a mock-up of that hostel in Sarsawa. They started rehearsing. And why they rehearse, I'll tell you very quickly, is that it is, that inverted pyramid that the SEAL leader who actually came up with the Osama bin Laden operation, Admiral McRaven, he comes up with this inverted triangle of spec ops, and where he studied about 9 of the best special operations in the world. And he came up with that inverted pyramid, which stands on the basis, which is balanced on the basis of simplicity. You have simplicity, surprise, security, purpose, all of those things. But the base of that pyramid was simplicity. And to get simplicity, your plan has to be really simple. Otherwise, that pyramid risks toppling over. It's all a matter of time, coordination, speed, stealth, surprise, security of your operation, operational security. All of those things combined to make a successful special forces operation. It so happened, and you exercise because you want your commandos to literally know their way around the building, like, blindfolded. Yeah. It becomes muscle memory. How do you get muscle memory? Get muscle memory? Repetition. You repeat a certain act till the time it becomes natural to you. Yeah. So, you see, for instance, one of my friends, Colonel Sen, the NSG colonel, and, when we look at a picture of bodies, now these are the bodies of the militants who are supposed to have killed our civilians in, Pahalgam. And he looked at those 4 bodies and he said, yeah, this guy over here in the center, they say he's a special SSG guy from Pakistan. He's definitely SSG. I said, how do you know? Because he's got an M4, US M4 carbine. The rest are carrying AKs. And because he's trained his entire life on an M4, his muscle memory is for an M4. And he would carry that. So that is one of his ways of thinking. So you get this muscle memory by practicing, by repetition and all that. So that's how the building came into mind. Now, what happened in that plan, I've heard, is that operational security couldn't be maintained for some reason. Somebody tipped Bhindranwale off about this, that the army, they said army is planning to, abduct you. Yeah. They're rehearsing this thing. They've created a mock-up of the building. It was all there. The teams were ready. And lo and behold, he entered the Akal Takht. And he went into the complex of the Golden Temple. And then that presented a completely different range of possibilities, where you enter the most sacred shrine for the Sikh faith, and you're in a place where, the Guru Granth Sahib is kept, all of those things. So then it became a kind of a thing that you could not touch him, right? So then Sundown was cancelled. They said, we have to do Blue Star. And even in Blue Star, the same operatives who had taken part in rehearsed for Sundown then came with a gas operation. They were supposed to, gas the place. Yeah. They had masks and they had all of that. And for some reason, when they saw the Akal Takht, they were supposed to use gas over there. They could not, for various reasons, because they could not ensure the dispersion of the gas. Various factors, that gas operation was called off. And then it became a full-scale frontal assault using special forces in the worst possible way, which is the spearhead for a conventional assault. And because you hadn't done the kind of intel, you didn't know who was inside, what are the kind of forces that they had, what are the weapons that they had. These kind of, basic stuff wasn't done. It became so there were some commandos who said, look, Indian Army will show up there and the guys will come with their hands raised high. They underestimated the morale of the people, the defenders. Yeah. And in the first opening, rounds of Blue Star, a lot of special group personnel were killed. It's very tragic. And you can actually tell them in those photographs, all those photos that have come out of Blue Star. You see a few of them. You see the black dungaree clad people, and they're the special group operatives. And they were used in what became a regular infantry assault. And I've spoken to a few of them, and they said that, look, even in the last hours before Blue Star, we recommended that you can do an insertion into the Akal Takht. You can get Bhindranwale out. It's not too late. You don't have to do this entire full-fledged infantry assault. But I believe they were overruled, and that was a tragedy. So Blue Star, it became what it became. And now the thing is that many years later, 4 years after Blue Star, the disaster that it was, these special forces got a chance to redeem themselves with Black Thunder 2, which was when they encircled the Golden Temple with snipers. And over several days, they took out the militants, and they ensured that everyone came with their hands held high as they planned to in the first place. But this Sundown is a classic case of what might have been one of those operations that could have been, that possibly would have averted the bloodbath of Blue Star, and maybe the history of Punjab would have been completely different. Who knows?
Maybe Indira Gandhi would have been alive.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons for her assassination was the of Blue Star, the failure of Blue Star, the kind of damage that was inflicted, and the riots, and of course the riots were after the assassination, of course. But fact is that the immediate trigger for that was that, and then you had all kinds of horrible things happening across the country. But this is the thing about special forces operations, that they are so sensitive, and they actually they are perched on that inverted pyramid, which is based on simplicity. That whole thing, that if something goes wrong, whether it's in your planning or it's in your execution or your implementation, that pyramid just collapses. And it just never takes off. And that's happened in this case.